and we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in the province-wide rounds today. Today, our speaker is Dr. Suzanne Vercauteren. Dr. Vercauteren is a clinical professor, a medical pathologist, and the head of pathology and laboratory medicine at BC Children's Hospital. She obtained her MD and PhD degree at the University of Utrecht, the Netherlands, and did her residency in medical pathology at UBC. In 2015, Dr. Vercauteren actually established the first institutional pediatric biobank in Canada at the Children's Hospital. Dr. Vercauteren has over 50 peer-reviewed publications in the field of biobanking and hematopathology. From 2014 to 2020, Dr. Vercauteren was the resident program director for hematopathology and served on the residence training committee from 2010 to 2014. Since October 2020, she's the director of EDI committee in the department and currently serves on the executive committee of our Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. Today, Dr. Vercauteren is going to talk about the EDI in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. I'll give the floor to Dr. Vercauteren. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gao. So today we're here to discuss some of the equity, diversity, and inclusion action items in the department of our department. And let me see here. And before we start, I would like with gratitude to say that we are gathered today on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, who have nurtured and cared for the lands and waters around us for all time. I give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, and play here. I also recognize that there are people participating today from other First Nation lands across British Columbia. I also would like to recognize that I'm very honored to give my presentation in the month of June, where we have, which is known as the Pride Month, which we celebrate this month, as well as that we celebrated this week, the National Indigenous Peoples Day. So the objectives of the talk today is to understand what EDI is and what the benefits are of implementing EDI in the work environment, to gain some insights in the EDI survey results from our department, which is still a work in progress, as you will see. And I love any input on different ways how to look at our results. And I would like to discuss with you action items that the department can undertake to further the EDI initiative. So what is EDI? I think the University of Edinburgh really puts EDI together. I mostly have seen separate definitions for equity, diversity, and inclusion, but EDI together ensures fair treatment and opportunity for all. And it aims to eradicate prejudice, discrimination on the basis of an individual or group of individuals' protected characteristics. So if you've done some of the Canvas learning modules in EDI over the last little while, there are definitely reasons why we should include EDI in our work environment as factors that contribute to an ideal environment for excellence in research and learning are an open and diverse community, inclusion of voices that have been underrepresented or discouraged, respectful and professional peer review, and integrated teams of innovation, collaboration, and inclusion in all activities. So research suggests that pro-diversity policies increase the depth of the potential employee pool. I think there's lots of shortages at the moment in different areas of laboratory medicine. I think both in the clinical and in the academic part. That they increase innovation, especially in organizations that value human capital. And I hope that universities, I think that's the main asset of universities is the human capital. Provide a wider range of views and backgrounds and experiences, which can improve problem solving. I think most of you know the story about the fork and the chopsticks. that they are invented around the same time by different ethnic groups, and that they both have the pros and the cons, and there's no right answer to eating your food. So if you're eating your lunch right now, either with a fork or a chopstick, I would say enjoy that very much. And it's kind of to me, it's kind of symbol of diversity. Also, pro-diversity policies have shown to improve financial performance. So why is EDI important in health research? Female and pregnant crash dummies didn't exist for safety of vehicle standards until only a few years ago, where they started to implement female and pregnant crash test dummies. And this was part of the Gendered Innovations Project, knowing that motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause for fetal death related to maternal trauma. And actually, Volvo is one of the leaders in this, so we now should all buy Volvo cars. They are using 36-week pregnant dummies to test their restraining devices. I think most people have heard the story about the heart disease in women, that we know that differential effects of sex hormones and sex chromosomes have an effect on heart disease, as well as gender differences in patients' lifestyle and health-seeking behaviors. There's also known different symptoms between men and women, and heart disease historically have only really been looked at in men, and therefore women were often underdiagnosed and they did worse after cardiac events. Design processes often use strict binary definitions of gender that yield outcomes limiting the usefulness of the products for gender non-conforming people. I think in pathology that's important, especially in the area of biochemistry as well. And I also wanted just to call out Alexa, how Alexa is like that voices are often just very binary, and that they're often female. So that voices that represent serving commodities are often done in a female voice. There's a bias against research from low and middle income countries, and the global south can lead to limited impact or highly relevant research. So often research that was done to look at areas of lower middle income countries were not as highly ranked, and not only the research, also the authors. There was a study that looked at scientific papers between 1985 and 2008, and they found that the frequency of English and European names fell relative to the frequency of non-European names during this period. So I think that's a good sign. We're on the right track. And very interestingly, that a greater diversity among authors actually resulted in higher impact journals, and were in papers published in higher impact journals and were cited more often. So I have personally been the chair of the EDI committee since October 2020, and I'm very lucky to have a lot of very good people around me. So this is an updated version. We don't have pictures of everyone yet, but an updated version of the EDI committee. And you can find that at the website, on the website of our department. So we have 4 working groups, and those working groups are the metrics, and that's led by Corey Lau. She is a great advocate for EDI and has done a lot herself in the area of EDI. Recruitment and hiring, we have our HR director, Ivy Zhang, who's very much involved in that. The research working group was led by Audi and by Anuli, but Anuli unfortunately left the department to take a teaching job at Langara. So we're currently looking for a co-lead for Audi to work with. And the communication working group was led by Lise, but she has also taken on a new job at PLMS, Provincial Lab Medicine Services. And I know she's very busy with that new job, and so we're kind of looking to see how we can help Lise with this group as well. So I'm going to show you some of the data that we've got out of their EDI survey. As you probably remember, we did an first EDI survey of our department in the summer of 2021. And we've got so much data. You may also remember there was a lot of questions, but we also got a lot of data that we can work with, but that we're still analyzing at the moment. So the survey had 4 pillars: culture, physical spaces, knowledge, and research. And we had 187 people completing the survey 100%. We had 2 people completing it 94%. We had 10 people completing it 51 to 75%, 12 people 26 to 47%. We had 111 people completing it 1%, and 30 that clicked on the survey but didn't answer the questions. So we are the results that you will see are from the top 2 people from the top 2 groups. So 189 survey records that completed mostly the survey. We did understand this was a very long survey and that it requested a lot of your time, and that sometimes maybe the questions weren't as clear as they could have been. And I think this survey will give us a really good baseline for our metrics group, and but we're hoping to make the next survey a bit shorter and a bit more concise. So when we look at the people who filled out the survey, I'm very happy to see that 34 of our academic faculty participated in the survey. We had a lot of clinical faculty. Postdoctoral fellows, I think, was the lowest, but they're also maybe percentage-wise not as well as many of us in the department. And staff, we had 14 people filling this out, and students from various backgrounds, either graduate students, residents, or undergraduates, we had 55. 15 people preferred not to say their affiliation. When we looked at gender and sexual orientation, we saw that male and female were very equal in filling out the survey, which is great because often they say that females are more likely to fill out these kind of surveys. I'm also very happy to see that 6 people came forward to in the survey to say that they were neither female nor male. And when we looked at sexual orientation, again, we had 132, 70% of the people identified as straight. But again, a very significant amount of people did not identify as straight, which was 15% of our department. 15% also preferred not to answer the question. So when we look at the culture questions first, the very first question of the survey was, I feel included and respected within the UBC Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine. And when you just look at this data, you say, oh, we're doing fantastic. Like the vast majority of people agree that that they feel included and respected. And very few people disagree. So we're doing really good. When we looked at more specifically at that specific question, we looked at gender. And I think we're still doing pretty good because people who with different genders, both the female, male, and people who did not identify as a female or a male, felt respected and included in our department. Then we said, let's look at people who are either from this country, from Canada originally, or not from Canada originally. And also there was no difference in people born outside of Canada versus people born inside of Canada. And so all of those groups felt respected and included in our department. But when we looked a bit closer at sexual preferences, we actually saw that people who answered as non-straight felt less included in our department. So approximately 50% of the people do not feel very well included or respected in our department. So I think this is an area that we should look at. Straight people, they feel overall pretty well respected and included. And people who prefer not to answer did better than the people who identified as ABGLPQ or questioning or unsure. So digging more deeply in those questions, I think is very important to see in what areas we can do better. And unfortunately, we don't have all the data for this yet. So we basically have all the data based on academic affiliation, but not as deeply as I just showed you right now. So the next question, or one of the questions that I wanted to show to you as well, is our department creates opportunities for the active participation and engagement of department members from historically, persistently, or systematically marginalized groups. And none of us think that we're doing a very good job. I think students think we're doing the best, which is fantastic, because maybe that's where we start. But clinical faculty do not believe that we're doing a very good job in giving opportunities to those marginalized groups. So I think there's work to do here, and we'll look further into better actually people from historically and persistently marginalized groups. Like if you look at gender or ethnicity or other backgrounds, how they answer that question and which one we specifically have to look at. When we asked about whether people feel comfortable speaking up to their supervisor, most people felt pretty comfortable. Postdoctoral fellows felt the least comfortable doing so. So that's something that we also need to look at. And when we ask people if they know where to go when they have concerns about harassment or discrimination, a lot of people still don't know where to go. So there's an area also where we can put information out more easily so people do know where to report those concerns. So when we looked at survey physical spaces, do you believe that our department ensures physical spaces are accessible and welcoming for students, trainees, staff, and faculty? Again, for the marginalized groups, but also for people with physical disabilities. We do pretty good in this area, but there's people who are disagreeing. And I also should say that we have to recognize that some of those spaces that are UBC Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine, maybe in the health authority, located within the health authority, and they're more difficult to adjust to accommodate more welcoming atmosphere to those marginalized groups or people with physical disabilities. We looked at knowledge as well. And we asked the question whether our department does a good job at providing training programs that promote understanding and mitigation of unconscious bias. And here you can see that a lot of people were unsure. And again, we don't know which are the people who are unsure or disagree, but we have to find out who those people are and whether we can provide those people with better opportunities for training programs. We had a question about taking courses, so people who have ever taken a course. And I was very happy to see that 76 people have taken a course about EDI. 61 people have not, and 15 were unsure, which was interesting in itself. But we have to look again who are the people who have not taken those courses, and see if we can provide them with information about those courses. And when we asked the question whether people feel comfortable taking a course, 125 people said they were. 8 people say they weren't. 16 said they were unsure. Again, who are those people who don't feel comfortable taking those? I would like to look into. And when we asked about research and that our department supports research that advances EDI as related to our field of inquiry, we saw that a lot of people are unsure about that. Whether people believe that all our research are equally supported to advance their research. There's also, I think, a lot of work to do because people are either neither disagreeing or agreeing or disagreeing. So we have to make sure that people are equally supported. And we ask people if they have experienced bias during the application process for grants or funding. And 17 people said yes, and 25 people said unsure. So this is something, again, are these the people who are female? Are these people who have a different gender than straight or non-straight? Are these people who are not born within Canada? So what has the department done so far to further our EDI? So in the website, we have a website and we have updated the website with the EDI section. In that EDI section, you can find the UBC Action Plan and Toolkit. You can also find the land acknowledgement map. So if you are unsure in which territory you live and which territory you should acknowledge, you can find the information over there. You can also find some definitions. You can find the EDI committee and the email address if you have any questions with regards to EDI. We also have started posting all positions, including volunteer and committee positions. There were a lot of comments in the survey that said like our department originally tapped a lot of people on the shoulder, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do volunteer for this position? Resulting that the same people over and over again were involved in the department, and we didn't hear the voices that were previously underrepresented. So we are now posting all those positions. And if you feel that you have something to bring to some of those positions, please feel free to put in your resume, as we are looking carefully at new voices and underrepresented voices. We also hope that our department has made strides into a better communication about process for academic recruitments and providing hiring managers with information on EDI training for staff appointments. So we have given people information about EDI courses on how to hire in the light of EDI, and have a transparency about who is sitting on hiring committees. The weekly rounds that were started during COVID are ongoing, and we also have now a monthly departmental business business meeting in which Dr. Gao or someone from his executive council is providing updates on the department. So hopefully you all will stay informed. And Debbie does a great job in providing a bi-weekly bulletin in which all the staff, all the members of the department can find a lot of information about our department and what we're doing. This is our website, as I mentioned, the Inclusion Action Plan, the Activation Inclusion Toolkit, land acknowledgements, concepts and terms is here. And then below you can find more information about the EDI committee, who's sitting on it, the EDI email address. So with regards to research, we are currently doing a lot of work. We're trying to find out the composition of our research staff with regards to gender, sexual orientation, a place they were born, or yeah, and what areas we have different types of staff. We know for a fact that we have more females in the student and postdoc category, but there are more males in the academic ranks. So it seems like although we have a lot of females in the earlier stages of their career, they either choose different careers once it comes down to the academic ranks, or they don't get the opportunity to go up to those academic ranks. And so we're looking into what it is that prevents females from going through those ranks. And we're also looking at other marginalized groups to see if they have the opportunity to become a assistant professor, associate professor, or full professor. We're looking at grant and publication distribution among those different groups. And something that we may want to look into in the future is the diversity among our research participants. There's a lot of good research going on in our department, but as I showed in the earlier slide, a lot of the research has been done previously on Caucasian populations or on males, and that may not always be translatable to other groups of people. So how do we increase research participation of marginalized groups or females? So what do we do? What have we changed in respect to recruitment? We have new hires are informed of our respectful workplace policy, and also they are made aware on how to report any concerns about harassment in the workplace. And for people who want to know, this is on the Faculty of Medicine web site, where you can find under the HR section the UBC statement on the respectful environment. There's an EDI section added to the academic and clinical faculty CVs. So we not only want to see your publications and your research career achievements or your teaching career achievements, we also like to see your EDI contributions through the department and your work. We've also heard through the survey that people who are not from the lower mainland tend to not have a very strong connection with UBC and our department at UBC. And Dr. Gao has done an amazing job by already appointing associate academic heads for each health authority. So that means that now Northern Health, Fraser Health, and Interior Health, as well as Island Health has been represented, as well as the First Nations Health Authority. We've hired, or Dr. Gao, I should say, hired a female vice chair for research, which I think is an amazing accomplishment for our department. And processes for academic recruitment and composition of selection committees have or will be communicated. So the composition will be communicated when it's available, and the processes have been posted. So if you're wondering what the process is for the academic recruitment, you should be able to find those on our website. Research labs have been made aware of EDI courses about hiring. So if they're hiring new postdocs, graduate students, undergraduate students, we would like them to look at those courses before hiring. And these are sections from different people's resumes with regards to the equity, diversity, and inclusion, because you may wonder, like, how do I introduce that on, or how do I put that on my resume? So an example is that someone in the department puts EDI on their weekly laboratory meetings. They introduced 15 to 30 minutes presentations and discussions of EDI issues, focusing initially on racial inequities. These meetings have continued with 1 hour per month dedicated to the discussion of EDI with a focus on action plans. Another person in our department has said on our resume how this person includes or integrates EDI best practices into the research by reviewing and studying EDI courses on CITR. They have a very lengthy and a lot of material on EDI. There is a sex and gender CITR certification you can do. There's an unconscious bias research module, integration of EDI into research methodology. And so this is something I would love to talk about more in the future, about how we can also integrate EDI into research methodology. But now we're mostly focused on the composition of our department. Integration of EDI into investigative teams and reviewing principles, EDI principles for UBC on the national international committees and review panels. But EDI can, addition of EDI to your research resume can be as easy as including the online training programs you've done through either our UBC or through different channels. So I think EDI is really easy to include in your resume, and there's different areas of EDI that you can include. And if you have any questions about this, you can always contact me or someone else from our committee about this. So, and with that, I would like to really thank Genevieve McMillan, who's really an advocate for EDI in our department and is really a force, to the force in this area, and she's helped me so much. The whole EDI committee has been very helpful, and it's been really a pleasure to work with all of them. I would like to give a shout out to Corey, who has some really interesting EDI ideas and has implemented EDI in her own research program, which is quite interesting, and I'm sure she's open to talk about it. Debbie with distributing all the communications that we've done. Ivy for the recruitment changes we've made. And Victoria Sutherland was a student who worked with us last summer to make design the research questions. And Lena is a PhD who is currently analyzing the data for us. I would also really thank Dr. Gao, who has really embraced EDI in our department and has made a lot of changes possible. And yeah, I look forward to working further with Dr. Gao and with the whole executive team. And as you can see, I left a lot of time open for comments and questions, as this is the first time I kind of introduced the concept of EDI to the department.